attitude of the blicky the pole. Lickety spitting your shit on my soul. It can get really intense for you, bro. Them boys is insane. If you know, then you know. Cold as the summer, the blizzard of snow. Fuck all my ops, the niggas is souls. My bitch wanna tweet, finna let that bitch go. Got a bad bitch from Houston, she ready on bro. Finesse and investing, I bought with the rest. Check me a bitch, nigga, buy my respect. That boy just talking, he ain't finna step. Watch what you do, what you say, on your neck. Fuck is you saying, my nigga say less. Pull up your block with the care to tech. You flee in your coffin, you fresh to death. Your bitch on my drip, she wanna have sex. Told that bitch cool, then run me a check. Up in the Fifi, the thotties on deck. Drink on my cup and I'm smoking that best. If I pass you the Zaz, gon' open your chest. Talk with your chest, little nigga on who. Like seasons over seen on the set. You think it's sweet cause you breathe until you see what's next. Okay, walk like a champion, talk like a champion. You don't hear that, see me glow. So I can't stand.
It's not hate to say that we were kidnapped and brought here, it's true. It's not hate to say that we were Jim Crow, discriminated and segregated, it's true. It's not hate to say that the Supreme Court, which is the highest court in this country, came up with a hypocritical desegregation decision 9 years ago, which they haven't enforced yet. That's not hate, that's true.
You're quoted as having said when an airliner crashed with a number of white people on board that you were glad it happened.
The white race in this country collectively are guilty of these crimes that our people are suffering from collectively. And therefore they will suffer some collective disaster, collective grief. And when that plane crashed in France with 130 white people off.
No one man should withstand the weight of the world on his shoulders that die when it's over. Ain't no global warming, the world getting colder. Ain't nobody doing shit, they taking our culture. Wake up and see y'all, ain't no balance on one side of the seesaw. We at war with Esau, but ain't nobody down with us. My niggas get up. I know what it's like to wake up fucked up. I know what it's like when the pain cut deep. You can't get on your feet and you just wanna stay asleep. When the shit too much, a nigga needs to roll up. And all you got is this money and it still ain't enough. To live is to survive, gotta hustle to stay alive. My girl don't understand, I can see I look in her eyes. You not the trouble of soul, I pacify with lies. I inflict the pain and wipe the tears of her cries. Mercy, mercy, Lord have mercy. Why niggas hate me? Show me no mercy. Brother forsake me, woman them hurt me. Mercy, mercy, Lord have mercy. Okay, walk like a champion, talk like a champion. You don't hear that send me blow. Pump, 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 pump. Pull up on your set slow. You don't hear no engine. Put a body on me gun wide. Walk like a champion, talk like a champion. You don't hear that send me blow. Pump, 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 pump. Pull up on your set slow. You don't hear no engine. Put a body on me gun wide. Mercy, mercy, the wicked have no mercy. So I gotta stay with a blick of niggas be thirsty. Quicker than the flick of a picture, niggas could murk me. Catch you with your dick in these bitches and do you dirty. But I'm God body, I put that shit on the jersey. No weapon formed against me shall hurt me. Go to war on your turf, I put you under the surface. Mac 10s, Mac 11s, call a nigga Bernie. Open up the chest of a nigga, them bitches burning. Living by the scripture that's written in this discernment. I see that window closing, can't be playing in the curtains. I ain't playing like the circus. I'm a man with a purpose. Can't be laying with the serpents. Keep the squares out your circle. You ain't standing on your word. What kind of man are you? X you out, cross you over. I had to sham guide you. Can't stop a nigga drive the beat. They can't guard you. Hell have no fury compared to what God do. I'm a whole gangster. My nigga not partial. 38 special. This nigga think he's special. I go ahead depart you. I ain't finna argue. Walk like a champion. Talk like a champion. You don't hear that city blow. Pump, 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 pump. Pull up on your set slow. You don't hear no engine. Put a body on the gun wide. Walk like a champion. Talk like a champion. You don't hear that city blow. Pump, 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 pump. Pull up on your set slow. You don't hear no engine. Put a body on the gun wide. Look. Nigga, all that shit you said ain't felt. I don't take you as serious as you take yourself. Niggas steady playing, better play where it's safe. Never know who I'm locked in with around your way. I don't like no bad energy. energy around my space. The label good green, nigga, what's good, you straight? Niggas talking crazy, that's a big mistake. Dreadlock driller, man, that's twisted fate. Had to spin that nigga around like 360 ways. You don't know how I get out, fully, I've been on edge. I can't let that slide, don't be that guy. Red Bull gets you, nah, little nigga, they lie. Just as an eagle gives you wings, once I let that bitch fly. This eagle eye vision on this level of mine. Give you an evil eye vision, red beam on the 9. Even I've seen evil eyes still cry. Don't leave an eyewitness on the scene of the crime. Seeing is believing, you ain't seen nothing yet. Switch scenes like the seasons over seen on the set. You think it's sweet cause you breathe until you see what's next. Okay, walk like a champion, talk like a champion. You don't hear that semi-glow. Put up on your set slow. You don't hear no engine. Put up body.
Shalom, what's good? What's cracking? What's up? We back at it. I know you see the title. God is coming back for his people. Yes, indeed. Hold on, Shalakia. Shalakia, we back. Oh yeah. We back again. So yeah. God is coming back for his people. Right? So yeah, we're gonna get into it, right? And you know, cause we gotta understand that the Lord's people were scattered throughout these four corners of the earth and all that cool stuff. Right? And dealing with these prophecies and stuff like that, God had promised, you know, certain things to take place in him restoring his people, rescuing his people in the various areas that they are scattered to in the last days, right? So we're going to get the prophecy on it, you know, and all that cool stuff. Hold on one second. But yeah, of course, giving all praises to the Most High God, Yahweh. We do so in his only begotten Son, Yahweh Shai. What you need?
I want to water my bird outside.
You do it later, okay? So, all praise to the Most High God, Yahweh. We do so in his only begotten Son, Yahweh Shai. So yeah, we're gonna get right into it. We're gonna jump right into it. To these, you know, the understanding of, you know, the Lord's people being scattered to these various nations and him bringing them back in the things that's going to transpire, that's, you know, leading into it. And, you know, as we see things cooking up over there in the Middle East, you know, all that stuff is all connected, although it seems like it's, you know, it's a separate, you know, thing, whatever. But it's all key to the Lord bringing in his salvation and returning his Son, right? So let's start with Ezekiel 30 real quick. Ezekiel 30. I mean, not Ezekiel 30, Jeremiah 30. Jeremiah 30. And, let's start at the top, right? So we're gonna start at the top. Of Jeremiah 30 and 1. So it says this. So it says the word came unto Jeremiah from the Lord, said, speak the word. It says thus. Hold on, read it right. It says, thus speak the Lord God of Israel, said, write these all the words that I have spoken unto thee in a book. right? So he's telling Jeremiah to write these things down that he's telling them in a book. It says, the word came to Jeremiah from the Lord, saying, thus spake the Lord God of Israel, saying, write these words that I have spake unto thee in a book, right? And let's get this real quick. This is Habakkuk 2:1. And it says this. It says, I will stand upon my watch and set me upon the tower. I will watch and see. What will he say unto me? And what shall I answer when I am reproved? And the Lord answered me and said, write the vision and make it plain upon tables, that he may run that readeth. Right? So what that means is, these visions, these prophecies, these things that the Lord is, presenting and bringing forth to his prophets, we are to take these and understand them, learn them, internalize them, and look for them, practice it, right? And, wish for it, right? And because when you make a plan, when you write out, a list of things to do, you write out, plans, blueprints on how to do certain things, right? You come up with, little rough drafts and stuff. And so you can have a guideline on how to proceed. So, and that's what these prophecies are. The laws of God and these prophets and the prophecies are guidelines on how to proceed, in the future, and God's plan on what he's going to do for his people and the restitution and all that cool stuff, right? And it says, verse 3, for lo, the day comes, said the Lord, that I will bring again the captivity of my people, Israel and Judah, said the Lord, and I will cause them to return to the land that I gave to their fathers, and they shall possess it. So, the day is coming that he's going to bring back his people back into the land, hit the real people back into the land, without no Belfort Declaration, from Britain, right? It's going to be God himself using the Mashiach Yahushua, who the world calls Jesus Christ, to do so, right? And it says, and these are the words that the Lord spake concerning Israel and concerning Judah. So the northern kingdom, southern kingdom, because right now we're scattered, throughout the four corners, with predominantly most of us being over here in the Americas, right? And being known as what people will call the Hispanic, Latino, Black, and Native American communities, right? Then it says, for thus said the Lord, we have heard a voice of trembling, of fear and not of peace. Ask ye now, and see whether a man do a travail with child. Therefore I do see every man with his hand on his loins as a woman in travail, and all faces are turned into paleness, because of the fear, the destruction that's coming, to this place. And that day is going to be a fearful, scary day. It's going to be a day that we never seen before, never experienced before, right? And it's going to be dreadful, right? And it says, at last, for the day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, right? And that's what's coming to the Lord's people. Jacob's trouble. Although we're, we've been, in it for a minute ever since we, been over here in the Americas. But it's going to ramp up, because like the Bible says, they're going to make war against his people, right? And as stuff proceed over there in the Middle East, war, gain more traction, stuff happens, the economy and all that falters, civil war breaks out, civil unrest, all that cool stuff. We can see how a lot of these things come into play, right? Because you got to understand, our people are the main targets whenever America has a problem. Whenever they want to vent their frustration, We are the targets, always. And so it says, let's read this. It says, where is that? Let's get it over here in the blue letter. Let's get verse 8 in the blue letter. And let's get verse 8 in the blue letter. Let's get it in let's get it right here. So it says, at last, for the day is great, for that none is like it, even it is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. So the Most High God is going to preserve and save his people. Although it's going to be some rough times, hard times, we're going to see some stuff, like Tupac said, you're going to see some stuff that's going to make it hard for you to smile in that day. You know, because people are going to be going for self. You know, they're going to be tapping into their animal instincts and living off of survival. Because society collapsed, right? But the Lord's people, he said, but he shall be saved out of it. It says, now verse 8, it says, I will break the yoke from their necks and snap their chains, right? Because we're over here in these different lands being subjugated, treated like second-class citizens, oppressed, red line, you know, all that stuff, right? And it says, I will break the yoke from their necks and snap their chains. Foreigners will no longer be their masters. So we will no longer be subjugated to these different nations that were scattered throughout the earth, right? Excuse me. Then that goes against those people with the little curly stuff and the little coasters on top of their head, because foreigners is not their masters. You know, they don't answer to no nation that's above them. Right? If anything, they control policies in these different nations, right? Then it says, I'm going to read it again. It says, I will break the yoke from their necks and snap their chains. Foreigners will no longer be their masters, right? Let's read this one. In the Christian Standard Bible, it says, on that day, this is the declaration of Yahweh of armies. I will break his yoke from his neck. I will break his yoke from your neck, and tear off your chains, and strangers will never again enslave him. And the him is Jacob, and that's the Israelites, right? So we would never go into bondage again. Once the Most High God, you know, rescue his people, you know, up out of this place, right? You know, so back over here, right? You know, because, hold on, before we get there, get this. Because you gotta understand, Israel was, you know, conquered, taken down, the people were scattered, beaten down, trodden down, you know, left to the ground, right? It's Jeremiah 14 and 2. And it says, Judah of mourning, the gates thereof languish, they are black unto the ground, and the cry of Jerusalem is gone up. So the city was destroyed, you know, right? And our leadership, our, you know, people that were supposed to protect us, they were taken down and destroyed, right? And then our city burnt to the ground. That's why it says they are blackened to the ground, meaning that where it says the gates, you know, because that's the city of protection. And it's, you know, that's the, you know, and it's burnt because they seized it, right? And So that was going on when we got taken out because of, our disobedience to the Most High God. So he allowed these other nations to conquer us. Then we got scattered throughout these four corners, right? So, but back over here, and it's safe. So again, like I said over here, like it says over here, for in that day said the Lord of heaven's armies, I will break the yoke from their necks and snap their chains. Foreigners will no longer be their masters. Right? Then it says, verse 9, but they shall serve the Lord their God and David their king. So we're going to we're going to come back to our culture, our customs, and be the Lord's people in that day. And it says, to whom I have risen up unto them. Right? And this is interesting too, because, we're killing two birds with two stones here. We cutting that Christian doctrine and also teaching the people. Because this is interesting, because when you look at it like this, it says this. It says, this is in the NLT. So it says, for my people will serve the Lord, their God. So right now we're in these nations following Christianity, following Islam, following Buddha, following all these different religions that we done twisted ourselves up into. But in that day, we're going to serve the Most High God in true and sincerity, and we're going to be keeping the commandments and the faith. And it says, for my people will serve the Lord their God, and their king descended from David. And now who descends from David? Right? Christ, of course. So that cuts the whole easy bake oven with Mary in her stomach, like Jesus just materialized in her belly. And he just poop, pop, boom, bang, he's right there now. Because he is a descendant of David. How do you be a descendant? Because you have grandchildren, right? Grandchildren, right? That's how you become a descendant, right? It's called, what they call it, family tree, bloodline, right? So from seed line to seed line, all the way down to Joseph, we have Christ, right? For my people will serve the Lord their God, and their king descended from David. The king I will rise up for them, right? And that's what's going on in that day. We're going to serve the Mashiach Yahushua. And again, those people with the little stuff curling from the side of their head and little coasters on top, they don't even believe in Jesus, right? The secular nation. On top of that, the little few people we see that appear to be religious, that's a very, very small percentage of those people. Because majority of them don't even believe in God. They are atheists, collectively. So how could they be the Lord's people? Right? Because faith and belief and following God is one of the first few commandments, right? And if you understand Deuteronomy 28, those are punishments for the people of Israel when they don't do certain things that God say. And a whole list of things that God would use to punish the nation of Israel. And if you go through history, guess what? None of those things happened to them. So not only are they secular, don't believe in Jesus, there's only a small the ones who we see, who they put on TV, very small percentage that actually believe, right? And then on top of that, that small percentage that supposedly be religious, 90% of them, or maybe a little bit over 90% of them, don't even believe in Jesus, right? That's just what it is. So who is these people? Not these people of the book, right? Because the Lord's people would not be secular, right? I mean, shoot. That's crazy. But anywho, it says, and it should, For it shall come to pass in that day, said the Lord of hosts, I will break the yoke from thy neck, and I will burst thy bonds, and the stranger shall no more serve himself of him. So like I said, they're not going to no longer live deliciously off the people of God, right? Because God is a God of justice, and he's coming to judge. Because you cannot think that these people can enslave the Lord's people and nothing happens, right? It's Revelation 13:10. It says this: He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints, right? And that's what the God's people is patiently waiting for, that justice, for that revenge, for that promise that God said that he was going to do for his people, to restore them and bring them back to the land that was promised to their fathers, right? Then it says, verse 10, Jeremiah 30:10, Therefore fear thou not, O my servant Jacob, said Yahweh, neither be dismayed, O Israel. For lo, I will save thee from afar, and thy seed from the land of their captivity, and Jacob shall return. And that's what he's going to do. He's going to save us from afar. When all hell is breaking loose, right, he's going to come in that nick of time, he's going to come and save his people. He's going to send his Mashiach back to save his people like he promised, right? And take us out of the various locations that we're scattered to. And it says, boom, 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 I will save thee from fire, and thy seed from the land of their captivity, and Jacob shall return, and shall be in rest, and be quiet, and none shall make him afraid. So we're not going to have to worry about getting oppressed, worrying about different, how they, this whole system, right? How our people, life is in doubt every day. How a lot of our people live with an uninsurance of life because of the way this system is being ran. The people that's at the helms of this thing, right? And so it's like, understanding that the Most High God is going to restore, fix, what do you say, make everything new, right? No longer the stress that you have of this world, right? All that stuff being erased, right? And it says, and shall be in rest, and be quiet, and none shall make him afraid. So we're not going to have that, we got to, what they say, a code switch. They say code switch, and when you go to work, you got to talk like them and act like them, because if you don't, you in fear that you're going to get fired. I mean, is that freedom? Is that real freedom of speech, where you have to change the way you talk and the way you act, just to be accepted, right? If you qualify for the job, you qualify for the job. Well, I got to talk like this, wear my hair like that, right? Don't be too natural, all right? Remember, a manager told me one time that don't be such a proud black man, right? Whatever that supposed to mean, right? So you're expected to curve yourself around them, right? And that day we're not going to do that, because we are going to be the kings and the priests of this world, right? They're going to have to curve themselves around you, right? And it says, let's get this real quick. Jeremiah 18. Because what happened to us, again, but let's read this first. Let's read 11 first. And it says, For I am with thee, said Yahweh, to save thee, though I make a full end of the nations, whether I have scattered thee, yet I will not make a full end of thee. So God says, although I'm about to judge these nations and destroy these nations, and I know you over there in these nations too, because I know you hear us talk about They pushing the red button and everything going blue out, right? But God says this. He says, what did he say? He says, for I am with thee, said Yahweh, to save thee. Though I make a full end of all the nations, although I'm going to destroy these nations, rather I have scattered thee. And I know you in these nations that's getting destroyed. I see that, you know. And it says, yet I would not make a full end of thee. So he's going to protect us. Although all hell is breaking loose in these different nations, you know, this nation against that nation, people against whatever, right? But the Lord's people is going to protect them. He says, I will not make a full end of thee, but I will correct thee in measure. So again, you know, it's not like we're going to go through this thing unscathed, right? Because, you know, like I said, you know, although we have the Most High protection, but like we read earlier, Jacob's trouble, like time on earth like we never seen before, right? So it's not like we're not going to go through this thing unscathed. That's why Christ says, he that have, you know, that endures to the end, the same shall be saved, right? He that keep the faith until the end, the same shall be saved, right? That's why it says, let's get this real quick. This is Luke, I think it's in 18. And it say this like that. Luke 18:8. I tell you that he will avenge them speedily. Right? Luke 18:8. I tell you that he will avenge them speedily. Nevertheless, when the Son of Man cometh, shall he find faith on earth? So that's the thing. So although we're going to be going through some hell, it's going to be, like I said, it's going to be some stuff you see in your life that you ain't never thought you'll see before. You might have to do some things that you never thought you'd probably do before. And through all of that, you're going to have to keep the faith, because Christ says this, nevertheless, when the Son of Man come, shall he find faith on earth, right? And that's how tough it's going to be, because people are going to be dropping out of the faith, right? Where they say, the son of perdition shall be revealed, lest it be a fall away of the church. People are going to be dropping out of the, you know, out of the faith. The turmoil that's going on in their life, right? And if you see me pausing, you know, every few seconds, that's because, you know, the powers that be is trying to mess with the little service, but we all are good. We're going to keep it rocking. But, so yeah, where do you find faith on earth, right? So then it says, I will correct thee in measure and will not leave thee altogether unpunished. So again, like I said, you know, we're going to have to go through some things, right? You're going to have to be brought through that fire. You're going to have to show that you're worthy, right? To get that kingdom, to get that crown, right? You're just not passing them out to anybody. You got to prove that you is worthy to be sitting right with Christ, right? Then it says, for thus said the Lord, thy bruise is incurable, and thy wound is grievous. There is none to plead thy cause. Thou mayest be bound up. Thou hast no healing medicines. Right? Because nobody came to try to help the Lord's people and try to, you know, rectify and you know, to fix the situation, you know. Nobody did that. Nobody cared to, you know, try to see what they can do to try to, you know, ease the pain of the Lord's people. You know, they saw those slave ships leaving, and nobody did nothing, right? They saw the reports of what was going on to the Lord's people over here. Then not only that, and they own land as well, right? They did nothing. That's why it says this over here in Isaiah 63, right? In the GNT. It says, this. It says, who's this that cometh from Edom? This is Christ. This is the return of the Mac. This is the return of Christ. He's coming back, right? And he's black, right? He's coming back. It says, who is this that come from Edom, from the city of Basra, with his clothes stained red? Who is this in royal robes? So, he's dressed, decked out, looking like, he was looking like, dressed like a prince, like a king, but his clothes has got blood stains on it, though. This is Christ we talking about here, right? And it says, who is this in royal robes, marching in his great strength? It is I, the Lord, announcing your salvation. It is I, the Lord, who has the power to save. Why is your clothes so red, as if you have been treading out grapes? So Isaiah is asking, like, why is your clothes so bloody, right? And he said, look like you've been stepping on grapes, right? It says, I have been treading the winepress alone. What is the winepress? The world, the nations, right? These people, right? It says, I have been treading the winepress alone, and no one's there to help me, right? So Christ see the atrocities of his people. He see all the things that's going on, and he's like, man, there's nobody around to do anything to help, right? And he says, in my anger I trample my enemy. So what did Christ say? Oh God, this is Christ. He's talking like this. Yes, he is, right? This is the conquering lion. This is not the little effeminate little white Jesus that they want to propagate. This man said this. He said, in my anger I trample my enemies as if they were grapes. In my fury I trample my foes. Their blood has stained my clothes. For time has come for me to avenge my people. Right? So Christ is pissed off that nobody, did anything to help. Because like it said over here, verse 13, there is none to plead thy cause. No nation stood up and say, hey, what y'all doing to those black people over there? Stop enslaving them and hanging them from trees. What's wrong with y'all? Nobody said that. Right? It says, there is none to plead thy cause, that thou mayest be bound up, that has no healing medicines. So they ain't trying to give you no reparations. They ain't trying to give any type of recompense, right? They like, nigga, get over it, right? That happened a long time ago, right? But they about to celebrate the 4th of July next month. But they tell you, oh, that happened a long time ago, right? But that's the story of that's the story of what we got to go through. And it says, there is none to plead thy cause. Thou mayest be bound up. Thou hast no healing medicines. Right? So back over here it says, I have treaded the winepress alone. No one was there to help me. In my anger I had trampled my enemies as they were grapes. In my fury I had trampled my foes. Their blood has stained my clothes. For the time has come for me to avenge my people, to ransom them from their oppressors. I was amazed to see no one intervene. Christ like, man, I'm sitting up in heaven at the right hand of the Father. They're sitting down watching this stuff. Like, wow, they really ain't gonna do nothing, huh? Like, wow, they really gonna let that? Dang, that's another slave ship going. Oh, dang, they really ain't gonna put a blockade and ain't gonna put no sanctions on nobody? Really? No warship, no nothing? Right? No canoe? He said, I was amazed to see that no one intervened to help the oppressed. Nobody intervened to help the oppressed, right? But they get on TV all the time. Oh, we need to pray for Ukraine, and oh, pray for these people over there, and oh my God, we need to have a disaster relief fund for them. But for the Lord's people, it says, no one intervened to help the oppressed. So I myself stepped in to save them with my strong arm, and my wrath sustained me. So Christ said, look, I didn't need no help. I was so angry. I destroyed these nations myself. I didn't need no other nation to be like, hey, Christ, you need help over there? I got an army too. I can send a couple little troops, tanks, what you need. He like, no, I got it. And what it says, my wrath sustained me. I crushed the nations in my anger, and I made them stagger and fall to the ground. Spilled their blood upon the earth. Right? That's how he's going to get down for his people. Right? Because Christ is pissed off. You think he's cool about what's going on? He ain't cool about what's going on. Because we serve a God of justice. But here's the thing. Prophecies. Things that were written beforehand has to take place. Things have to transpire. Stuff have to go. Right? A lot of people want stuff to happen like that. But to be real, if you want to be technical about it, what did Peter say? A day of the Lord is like 1,000 years, right? So, if that's true, then in the Most High paradigm, Christ just died 2 days ago, right? What does it say, 2,000 years ago, right? So, like I said, our concept of time is different than the Most High concept of time, right? And better we understand that, better things will be. So, Jeremiah 30:14, it says, all thy lovers have forgotten thee. They seek thee not, for I have wounded thee with a wound of an enemy, and with chastisement of cruel one, for the multitude of thy iniquity, because thy sins were increased. So, even, when we were, doing our thing as a nation, doing our thing as a nation when we were sinning and following after other nations and aligning ourselves with other nations and stuff like that, then what the Most High is saying, when shit hit the fan, when these nations, when we got conquered, those same nations that we were cool with, none help. They didn't do anything to help at all after we done cozy ourselves up with these people, right? And the Most High does that, because we need to understand that God wants us to be separate from the rest of the nations. Anytime we join and try to assimilate and do what they do, we get punished. They don't get punished. They get rewarded. They become better, stronger, richer, and we become poorer and lesser. Right? That's the pattern if you understand it and have the spiritual eyes to see. And that's how God set it up. For one day we can say to ourselves, let's just stick with ourselves, because every time we venture out and try to deal with other people, they don't treat us right. So let's love each other first. Let's do that. Let's work on what we call black love. Just make that a thing. After that becomes a phenomenon, then we can probably, if we got a little love left over, then we can probably try to sprinkle a little love everywhere else. But let's work on this thing first, right? Because we got a lot of problems. And we can't assimilate ourselves with other people, and we have a lot of problems, right? And it says, all thy lovers have forgotten thee. And that's why we can't assimilate ourselves with other people, because, again, understanding history. Like I said, all these nations turned on the Lord's people, right? They enslaved the Lord's people. They got rich when the Lord's people was, being enslaved. It says, all thy lovers forgotten thee, they seek not, for I have wounded thee the wound of an enemy, with a chastisement of a cruel one. And that's what happened. We've been chastised by a cruel one, right? Esau is the cruelest, right? The European man, woman, and child is the meanest of the meanest, right? Ruthless of the ruthless. More violent than anybody we can think of, really. I mean, who has a bigger body count? I mean, they don't have a diplomatic bone in their body. I mean, that's not my personal opinion. I mean, the history books tell us that, right? I mean, you can't name one country that they settle at that they did not go to war and unalive the original people. Name one place they did not do that at. Can't name one place. It says, all thy lovers have forgotten thee. They seek thee not. For I have wounded thee with a wound of an enemy, and with chastisement of cruel one. For the multitude of thy iniquity, because thy sins were increased. Right? Because we chose not to do what the Most High God wanted us to do, we wanted to assimilate with the other nations. And so God said, all right, I'm going to let these other nations deal with you then. And see how you like it. And you see how they deal with us. Right? And we got to understand that. And it says, it says, why criest thou for thy affliction? Thy sorrow is incurable for the multitudes of thy iniquity. Because thy sins were increased, I have done these things unto thee. Right? Again, because what people don't understand, you know, we talk about the laws of God. And when you speak about the laws of God, people always associate it with something that's impossible, right? It's so impossible. You can't keep the laws of God. But yet every Sunday you go in your purse, in your pocketbook about 11 times to give your money to pastor. Tithes is part of the law. In case you didn't know. I mean, maybe you've been doing it so long, you probably think it's just a church membership fee. You know, I got to pay to go to church, right? I'm just paying to walk in this building, right? You know, it's a cover charge, right? Whatever you want to call it. It's part of the law. And you're doing it. So to say you can't keep the law, but then you go in your pocket and give pastor some money, what are you really doing? You're keeping the law. You're not doing it properly, but you're doing the law, essentially. Right? So, and what we were doing is not that they were so hard to do and God just said a whole bunch of rules and regulations that was just unattainable. Very, very achievable. But the problem is, our people like to look around and say, hey, what they doing over there? Hey, can we do that too? Hey, how you do that? Oh, I want to do that. Oh, okay, I like that. Let me take that and mix that in with this and take that over there and mix that in with that. And, oh, I like, take what I got over here and put that in. That's what we were doing. Then we end up diluting our culture, our heritage, by mixing other things into it. That's what the sin was. It's not that the laws was just so, oh my God, I don't even know what he's saying. I don't understand these laws. It's not complicated, right? Christ said my way is easy, right? And it's not grievous. So I don't think he lied when he said that, right? So over here. And it says, let me read this again. Shoot. Got me rambling. It says, why criest thou for thy affliction? Thy sorrow is incurable for the multitude of thy iniquities, because thy sins were increased, and I have done these things unto thee. Right? And so again, because we wanted to follow other nations and not do what Most High God told us to do, because I guess we thought it was boring. So he made these other nations rule over us. And you have to understand that whatever you give your spirit to, you will become a slave to it, a second-class citizen to it. So you give your spirit to these different religions, these different ideologies, you're going to end up liking what they like and hate what they hate, right? That's just how it goes, right? You can't be you can try to be halfway in it, but eventually you're going to start liking what they like and hate what they hate, right? And because you gave your spirit to it. Instead of giving your spirit to what the Most High God told you to follow, right? Now you've made yourself a second-class citizen. And it says this, Deuteronomy 30:7. And the Lord thy God will put these curses upon thy enemies, and on them that hate thee, which persecute thee. Right? So, it's in the time... So, in that time, what I'm saying, these nations that inflicted us, that, persecute us, the Most High God is going to begin to reverse these things and they're going to start suffering and going through these things that we go through, right? They're going to have the single parent homes. They're going to have the fathers on drugs. They're going to have the mothers selling their bodies, and all that stuff. They're going to have all the gang violence and all the other stuff that plagues our community, right? Right here, real quick before we get back there. Psalms 83:2. Start at 1. Keep not thou silence, O God. Hold not thy peace. Be not still. So David is praying to the Most High God, telling him, hey, act. Be active. Look, hey, do something about this stuff, God. Do something, right? And he says, for lo, thy enemies make a tumult. They that hated thee have lifted up their head. So, in case you like it, in case you don't like it, understand it, believe it, the Most High got enemies, right? And his enemies is our enemies. Our enemies is his enemies, right? It says, for lo, thy enemies make a tumult. They that hate thee have lifted up their head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people. So they come up with schemes and policies and, stuff to oppress the Most High people, to further subjugate them, right? To further keep them separate and downtrodden in society. It says, they have taken crafty counsel against thy people and consulted against thy hidden ones. They said, come, let us cut them off from being a nation. And that's what they have done. They cut us off from being a nation, right? That's why we don't know where we came from. It's over 54 countries in Africa, right? We can't tell you what part they found us at, right? It says, cut them off from being a nation. It says, that the name of Israel be no more in remembrance. So that's not in our remembrance. A lot of our people say, oh, well, I'm a Gentile. I just believe in Jesus and have faith. I'm a Gentile, right? But not knowing that we are the bloodline descendants of these people that we read in this book, right? We are God's children on this earth, right? His living children on this planet. We are those, right? Not in a metaphorical sense of the word, but he told us and he chose us and made us his people, his children, right? That's who we are, right? That's why we're great in everything that we do, right? And it says, they said, come, let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel be no more in remembrance. For they have consulted together with one consent. So all these nations, they come together. That's why Christ said, I was amazed to see that no one helped, right? Because they all in cahoots, right? I don't care how many videos Iran make about, them, judging America for how they treated black people. They did not got one goddamn thing about it, right? So, it's cute, it looks cool, but it says they have said, let us come and cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. For they have consulted together with one consent, for they are confederate against thee. Right? And that's what these nations are, confederate against the Lord's people, right? And that's why Christ was amazed to look, as he's sitting on the right hand of the Father and see the atrocities that happen and see none of these nations said, hey, we should do something. That is very humane to cut a man's penis off and make him forcefully a eunuch, right? That is very humane to do such a thing. That is very humane to take a little small boy and treat him like a little teenage girl. That is very inhumane, right? We should do something about that. That is humane to say, hey, we need to cut costs, so just throw a couple hundred people overboard and let the sharks get them. That's not cool, right? It's very, very unhumane to be like, hey, let's get a couple little babies, tie them to a little raft and push it off in the marshes and let the alligators get it. Then when the alligators get the little babies, we kill the alligators and make belts and shoes. That's somebody could have said, hey, that's not cool. I mean, that's not humane, people. Nobody said that. For they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee. Right? That's why. So, spiritually, these nations hate us. Spiritually, these nations are against us. Whether you like it, believe it, understand it, or not. The Bible says so. Right? And I choose to believe what the Bible says. And not only that, I can look with my eyes and see when I walk into a certain store, they tell me, hey, hurry up and buy. Hey, what you doing over there, black man? Right? You know, why? That's the question. Back over here. Says, let's get hold on. Let's get this. Let's get get let's get Ezekiel 25 and 13. And it say, therefore thus saith the Lord God, I will also stretch out my hand upon Edom, and will cut off man and beast from it. I will make it desolate from Teman, and they of Dedan shall fall by the sword. And that's what's going to happen in this coming war. Right? It's going to destroy these people, the people of Edom. We know who the people of Edom is. Right? It's going to take them down. Right? Like the Lord promised. I will lay my vengeance upon Edom by the hands of my people, Israel. So he's going to let his people get a little licks in at the end. Because like it tells us, Jeremiah 51 and 20. Right? And they shall do to Edom according to my anger, according to my fury, and they shall know my vengeance, said the Lord. So the Most High God is going to put the spirit on the Israelites to exact vengeance on their oppressors that oppressed them, to get that vengeance, right? Read about that in Zechariah 12 and 8, right? How he's going to do so, right? You read about those things. And it says, therefore they that devour thee shall be devoured, and all thy adversaries, every one of them, shall go into captivity, right? So what's going to happen to these people at the end of the day? It says, therefore all they that devour thee shall be devoured, and all thy adversaries, every one of them. So all these nations that hate us, right? Because if we had kept reading in Psalms 83, it would have listed all the nations that are against the Most High God's people, right? Then it says, all thy adversaries, every one of them, should go into captivity. So that's called justice, in case you don't know. Trading places. Should go into captivity. Because God is a God of justice. We cannot do 300-400 years of slavery and think the people that did that put the people in slavery, nothing happens to them, right? That's not, this in science, just, just take the Bible away for a hot second. In science, it's something called cause and effect, right? Because something happened, then this is going to happen. Because this happened, then this happens. Because that happened, then this happened. That is a scientific fact, right? That they teach in all the schools across America. So to think that these people can just skate free and nothing happens, then you don't believe in God and you don't believe in science. Right? That's just what it is. Because it says, therefore thus saith the Lord God, I will also stretch out my hand upon Edom, the so-called Caucasian, white man, woman, and child. And I will cut off man and beast from it. I will make it desolate from Teman, and they of Dedan shall fall by the sword. I will lay my vengeance upon Edom by the hands of my people, Israel. They shall do to Edom according to my anger and according to my fury, and they shall know my vengeance, said the Lord God. Right? That's what's going on in the world. Let's get let's keep reading. And it says, back over there, it says, for I will restore. What? Okay, I'll go back to that. I don't know how I missed that. But I'll go back to that. But I'm going to read this though. It says, I will restore thee, and I will heal thee. Heal thee of thy wounds, said the Lord, because they call thee out, because they call thee outcast, saying, this is Zion, of whom no man seek after. Right? So, because the downtrodden and the mistreatment of the Lord's people, God is going to let it be known who his people is. Right? When he restores us. Right? And redeem us and put us back in that land. But let's get this part. Let's get this. Yeah. Let's read this. Really quick. So again, like I said, the Most High God is going to, gather his people and bring us out, and then he's going to let his people get, exact that revenge. But I'm going to backtrack just a tiny bit. We're going to get back to this, restoring and healing stuff, right? So Ezekiel 20 and 32, right? I thought I read it all, but I didn't. I'm going back to it though. Let me get it over here. Get it over here too. So let's check it out. So Ezekiel 20 and start at 32. It says, and they which cometh into your mind, and that which cometh in your mind shall not be at all. That ye say, we will be as the heathen, as the families of the countries, to serve wood and stone. So, a lot of our people, we living in these lands, we following different philosophies and stuff like that, different religions that we follow, right? But it says, boom, boom, boom. Let's get this real quick. Revelation 7 and 9. It says, after this I behold, and lo, great multitude which no man could number, of all nations, kindreds, and tongues, and stood before the throne, before the Lamb, clothed with robes, palms in their hands. So now these people are being redeemed, because again, what we're reading over here, it says, and that cometh unto your mind shall not be at all. That ye say, we will be as the heathen, as the families of the countries. Because that's what we do now. We, try to copy and be like the other nations and try to assimilate and, do their thing, right? Instead of doing our thing, right? So in that day, we're not going to, have that, spirit on us. Because like we just read over here, behold, and lo, a great multitude which no man could number, of all nations, kindreds, and people, and tongue stood before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed with white robes and palms in their hand. Right? And let's get this real quick. Because some people, just in case, go to Revelation. Oopsie. Oh, they bogus. They ain't gonna let me pull it up, huh? So, but anyway, when you get the point I was going to, like, when you look into Revelation 7 and 9 in the Greek, it's talking about the families of Abraham. Because a lot of people get thrown off because it says of all nations and kindreds and people and tongue before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed with white robes and palms in their hands. So a lot of people will get thrown off, like, oh yeah, that's talking about everybody. But no, when you read it in the Greek, it's talking about the families of Israel, right? So I wanted to show y'all that, but for whatever reason, they ain't let me pull it up. But yeah, back over here. It says, "As I live, said the Lord, surely with a mighty hand, with a stretched out arm, and with fury poured out, I will rule over you." So God is saying He's going to, rule over His people in that day, and and we're not going to be following after false guys and false ideologies and so forth, right? We're going to be keeping to the commandments, the law that was given to us, right? Let's get this real quick. So so let's get this Isaiah 60 and 20. So it says, let's read this one more time. It says, "As I live, said the Lord God, surely with a mighty hand, with stretched out arms, and with fury poured out, I will rule over you." Right? And again, so like I said, we're not going to be following these false religions and none of that stuff. We're going to be coming back to the Most High God in truth and sincerity. Right? Over here, Isaiah 66 and 20. "And they shall bring all of your brethren for an offering unto the Lord out of the nations upon horse and in chariots and in litters and upon mules and upon swift beasts to my holy mountain, Jerusalem, said the Lord. As the children of Israel bring a offering in a clean vessel into the house of the Lord." So all of our people from all around the world is going to be being brought back to the land in various different ways, various different means of transportation, right? I.e., how they say the UAPs and all that stuff. We kind of touched on it, not too long ago. But yeah, right? So different means of transportation, right, is going to be sent out all to the four corners of the earth to bring the Most High God's people back to the land that He promised, right? So, back over here, and it says, as a boom boom. Hold on, let me get this real quick. So yeah, let's get this. So Ezekiel 11:7 says, "Therefore thus said the Lord God, your slain whom ye laid in the midst of it, they are the flesh, and this city is the caldron, but I will bring you forth out of the midst of it." So again, more prophecy about the Most High bringing His people out of these various lands that we're scattered to. Did I get freaked there? Boom, boom, boom. Hold on. Yeah, we read that. So, right here, so it says, verse 34, it says, "I will bring you out from a people, and will gather you out of the countries wherein ye are scattered, with a mighty hand, and with a stretched out arm, and with fury poured out." So He's going to gather His people from these different nations that they're scattered to. That's why when we read in Revelation that all people from different nations and multitudes, because we're in these different different countries, speaking different languages and so forth, right? So because we were scattered, we don't, none of us speak our original language that we speak whatever language that whatever country we at, currently, right? And so that's why it says different language and different tongues. That's why it also says He's going to return to Israel a pure language, a pure tongue, because we all speak multiple languages right now because of our, disbursement, throughout the earth, right? Then it says, "I will bring you out from the people, and will gather you out of the countries where ye are scattered, with a mighty hand, and will scatter you, and will stretch out a arm, and with fury poured out." So, this is what we call the second Exodus. Just like how God, same verbiage when He took us out of Egypt with a mighty hand. And we know what that mighty hand looked like. That looked like 10 plagues on Egypt, with the firstborn of every living thing being unalive, right? We know what that is. But this Egypt is going to be destroyed with 7 plagues, right? And not just the firstborn, but the second, the third, the fourth, and the fifth. The uncle, the brother, the sister, the cousin, right? The father and the mother. Your green-eyed granny with holes in their panties, right? They all gonna, you know what I mean. So then it says, "And I will bring you into the wilderness. I will bring you into the wilderness of the people, and there I will plead with you face to face." That sounds familiar. Just like when He took us out of Egypt the first time, we were in the wilderness, and He pleaded with us face to face. He told us the laws. He had to purge out the rebels. That's, when Moses went down and saw the people acting a fool, he said, "Hey, who's on the side of the Lord and who's not?" And everybody that was on the side of the Lord pulled out a sword and killed all of those that was not on the side of the Lord. That all those that didn't move fast enough. When Moses said, "Which one of you people is on the side of the Lord?" Right? And that's how our Haitian brothers, in the Bible they call it the Levites. That's how our Haitian people became the priests of the Lord, because they was the first to move. They said, "Yo," they like, how the Haitians do, why you do that, right? So they was the first one to pull out the sword and put the non-believers and the unachievers and the rebels where they supposed to be, right? So it says this: "I will bring you into the wilderness of the people, and there I will plead with you face to face," right? And He's going to plead with us face to face. Let's get this real quick. Zechariah 13:8. And it says this. It says, "And it shall come to pass in all of the land, said the Lord, 2 parts therein shall be cut off and die, but a third shall be left therein." So a lot of our people going to have to get unalive, right? For, it's the cold hard facts. I'm not here to try to spare nobody feelings to try to, well, I'm not going to read this part. Nah, you got to read it all. Right? A lot of our people is going to have to, it's not going to make the cut because they have that Stephen from Django syndrome. They have that Uncle Tom syndrome. They have that, we sick boss type of mentality. Right? And the Most High God is not dealing with that. Right? It says, it shall come to pass in the land, said the Lord, 2 parts therein shall be cut off and die, but a third shall be left therein. So, because of our disobedience, and don't want to come back to the law, statutes, and commandments and keep the faith, when all hell is breaking loose, when Jacob trouble is breaking off and in full, throttle, a lot of our people is going to get caught up in it and be, and have to die in the land of their enemies. Isn't it sad? Because we don't have to. But a lot of our people are in love with the society. They love this place. That's why the Bible says, he that loved the world is at enmity with God. Right? And our people love material stuff. Right? So because of that, a lot of them have to die in the land of their captivity. Sad, but it's true. It's only sad because they ain't gonna get right. And it says, and it shall come to pass in the land, said the Lord, 2 parts thereof shall be cut off, but the third should be left therein. So a third part of the Lord's people, that righteous branch, those that's going to stay steadfast and keep the faith and not fold when all hell is breaking loose. Those people who God wants. Those is what he's going to bring in this new world, right? Those people who he's going to make leaders and governors, kings, and priests over this world. Those people, right? It says, I will bring a third part through the fire, and I will refine them as silver is refined. So what is this fire, though? This fire, like I said, this fire is Jacob's trouble. This fire is all hell breaking loose. And like Christ said, he that endures to the end, the same shall be saved. Because although we are God's people, although we have that divine protection, but like I was saying earlier, that does not mean we're not going to see some stuff that we never saw before. We're not going to have to do some stuff we never had to do before. I'm speaking in code. If you know, you know. Right? So you got to keep that in mind. Now, of course, we all wish we don't have to be in those situations. But when everybody is thinking about how they're going to live for the next day, I mean, then you kind of in the mix of that, right? And the only way to get you protected in that is to have the Most High God protection, right? And that's what we're hoping for in that day. Because people is crazy, in case you don't know. Right? I don't know if you understand that. Right? I don't know if you had a chance to look at people lately, but people is kind of crazy. Right? Then people get more crazy when there's no rules and regulations to regulate they crazy. So when the 911 button is not working, you hear a dial tone. Because the police officers that you're depending on to help you, they're back at home helping themselves because they know people crazy. They try to protect their house. So our protection is the Most High God, if you understand. So it says, and I will bring up a third part through the fire and refine them as silver is refined. I will try them as gold, and they shall call on my name, and I will hear them, and I will say, it is my people, and they shall say, the Lord is my God. So that's what's going to happen. We're going to have that protection, right? And he's going to protect his people. So back over here, it says, as I plead with your fathers in the wilderness, in the land of Egypt, I will plead with you, said the Lord. Right? And that's what he's going to do. He's going to plead with us, right? He's going to, refine his people, right? Teach us, give us the laws, right? Give us the correct instructions. You know, because again, we have, but then again, we're gonna have to get refined. Those rebels that make it to the wilderness, again, they're gonna have to, just like how we was saying earlier, when we left out of Egypt the first time we was in the wilderness, and then a lot of that first generation died off, right? 40 years before they went into the promised land, because they was too wicked and too Egyptianized to walk into the land of the Lord, right? So we're gonna have a few Americanized people in the wilderness still want to twerk and do all types of manner of evil while we in the wilderness waiting for everything to be cool. You still gonna have people like that. You're gonna still have people trying to do all their little manners of evil, whether sell drugs or whatever the case may be. You're gonna have people that's still gonna be clinging to their old lifestyle here in America, right? And it says, "Ye stiff-necked and uncircumcised in heart and ears, ye do always resist the Holy Ghost, as your fathers did, so do you." Right? And it's kind of amazing to think about, when you go over the story of the Exodus and how a lot of our people were, groaning and, kind of upset and wanting to go back to Egypt. Like, man, it's better in Egypt. At least we had this, we had that. We out here in this desert, this hot ass sun. Like, dang, at least Egypt. So you're gonna have a lot of people like that. Like, man, dang, I wish we can go to America. I mean, dang, too bad they done blew it all up. Like, dang, what we gonna do now? Let's see, can we go and break off and go this way, right? Let's go down and see what they're doing over there. So you're gonna have a lot of people that's not gonna be okay just being in the wilderness. Just like back in the day, our people wasn't just okay being in the wilderness. So that's why the Most High God made us stay there for about 40 more years until those people died off. That wasn't okay, right? Then we say, boom. So, all right, back over here. And it says, I will cause you to pass under the rod. I will bring you into the bond of the covenant. Right? And the rod is the instructions. It's gonna, just like how in the time of old when he gave Moses the laws, the commandments, it's gonna do it again. It's gonna give us the instructions, the laws, right? And that's gonna determine who's down for it and who's not, right? Because the rebels is not gonna do what the Most High God told them to do, right? It says, I will cause you to pass under the rod, and I will bring you into the bond of the covenant, right? And that's what we striving for, the bond of the covenant, right? And that's why Christ says, he that endures to the end, the same shall be saved, right? Revelation 2:2. I know thy works, and thy labor, and thy patience, and how thou cannot bear them which are evil, right? And that's what's going on. We see the evils in this world. We see how the evil being ran, and we just want this whole thing to be over. Like, we want Christ's kingdom to be established, righteousness to be throughout the earth. No more hunger, no more war, no more babies crying, none of that. That's all we looking for, right? I know thy works, and thy labor, and thy patience, and I know thou cannot bear them which are evil, and thou hast tried them which say they are apostles and are not, and has found them liars. And that's what a lot of our church leaders are, liars. They're not apostles. They're not sent by God. They're here to take your money. That's why they're here, right? They're here to rob the poor. They're doing a reverse Robin Hood. That's what they're doing. It's a reverse Robin Hood. They're robbing the poor and giving it to the rich, right? These churches are nothing but fancy money laundering, buildings, right? Just the way to funnel money out of the poor people's pockets and into the rich. right? That's what it's about. Read the King Leopold letters if you think I'm just saying stuff, right? Because that's what we do. We just say stuff. Read the King Leopold letters, right? Tell you all about it, how they structure Christianity to make poor people poor. Read it. Read about it. It's out there. Where we at? And it says, let's get this real quick. Let's get Hosea 2. Hosea 2 and 2. So Hosea 2 and 2 says this. Plead with your mother. Right? And too, that's the thing too, because a lot of our people, we get caught up in these religions and these false ideologies, and then, you know, we out here lost. You know, we like a plastic bag that's blowing in the wind, that's going every direction, right? Except for towards the truth. It says, plead with your mother. It says, plead for she is not my wife, neither I am her husband. Right? And that's how the Most High God was feeling about his people during that time, because we were just out here reckless, right? Like just out here, just, being out here for the streets, right? So God didn't want to claim us as his people. So he says, says, she is not my wife, neither am I her husband. Let her therefore put away her whoredom out of her sight and her adulteries between her breasts. Because we like to deal with all these nations, want to assimilate to their culture and do what they do and stuff like that, and then we end up losing our identity, right? Because we're committing spiritual adultery with these other nations and philosophies. Lest I strip her naked and set her as the day that she was born, and make her as a wilderness, and set her like a dry land, and slay her with thirst, right? And that's what's going on. We are slayed with thirst. That's why we follow after all these different philosophies and religions and everything that just sounds fantastical. We add it, anything that just sounds deep, like, oh, okay, yeah, let's do that. We always, red fish, blue fish, yellow fish, purple fish, knick-knack, paddywhack, give a dog a bone. People be like, man, he snapped. Dang, that's deep. Right? We love stuff like that. Right? But it says, lest I strip her naked and see her as the day that she is born, and make her as the wilderness, and set her like dry land, and slay her with thirst. Right? And that's what we've been slayed with, thirst, because we're just thirsty for any type of thing other than what the Most High God tell us that we should do. I will not have mercy upon her, upon her children, for they will be children of whoredom, children of whores. Yeah, children of whoredom. My bad. And it says, and that's why we go through what we go through collectively as a people. We're treated the way we treated, oppressed, downtrodden, subjugated in many various different ways, because it says, I will not have mercy upon her children, for they be children of whoredoms, right? And because of the sins of our ancestors and and so forth, that's why we go through what we go through collectively, these punishments that the Most High God had put on the nation. But we're living in those days where these punishments are coming to an end, and he's sending his son back to gather us and bring us back to the land which he promised, right? And to judge all these nations that had a hand in our downfall, right? And it says, for her mother had played the harlot, she conceived them. She that conceived them have done shamefully, for she said, I will go after my lovers that give me my bread and my water. And that's what we do. We look at these different nations, or these, we follow behind these different governments, i.e. America, and we look at their, little incentives to, you know, be detriment to our own people, and we be like, well, we're gonna take, we're gonna take that money to be a agent. We're gonna take this money to be a detriment to our people, to mislead our people. Instead of telling the people the right stuff, because they pay me this money, I'm gonna now talk what they want me to say, right? So our leaders do these things, right? They take those checks from these governments, and you got to be wary of any leader that the government propagate for you, right? That they push in front of you, right? Because leaders are people's champs, right? The people come up with who they should follow, not the establishment. That's crazy, right? But they've been doing that. They put these people in front of us and be like, this is your leader, right? And what have they done but put us further down, right? Because it's crazy, right? I hate every time people like, oh yeah, the first black this or the first that. Like, if we living in a truly equal society, or whatever how you want to call it, it wouldn't be a first black this or the first black that. It would just be, right? But you don't hear me though. Back over here. It says it says for her mother had played a harlot, she conceived them that have done shamefully. For she said, I would go after my lovers that give me bread and my water, my wool and my flax, my oil and my drink. So because these people provide certain benefits and protection, or whatever you want to call it, a lot of our people become enslaved to that, and they give up their integrity for these certain gifts and stuff, right? That's why it says this right here. And we got to understand this. Let me see right here. Hold up. It says this. Ecclesiastes 7:7. It says, surely oppression make a wise man mad, a gift destroys the heart. So oppression makes a wise person mad. Anybody that is wise would be angry enough at the stuff that's going on. Then they can easily settle you down just by giving you a little check. Like the 99%. Is the little protest they had a decade ago or more. Then hold on, Salakia real quick. Salakia. Hold up. So, yeah, 99% was, they had a little protest against the 1% that was controlling the wealth, right? And then let's give them people jobs, right? Same thing with the Black Panthers stuff. A lot of those groups that was confederate with the Black Panthers and stuff when they was doing the little worker rights strikes and all that stuff, right? They said, hey, let's just give them jobs, right? Because it tells us, surely oppression make a wise man mad, and a gift destroys the heart. So they can just, you're angry. I know what you want. Pull out your little checkbook, write you a little check. Like, hey, I'm gonna write you this check. Why don't you go and take this, buy you something nice, right? And don't say nothing else about nothing else, right? Let those Negroes over there figure it out for themselves. But here's your little check. And I don't want to hear nothing else from you no more. Right? That's why Jesse Jackson started talking about abortion is cool. Right? But in the 70s, he was against abortion. Al Sharpton too, all of them, right? But then somebody said, hey, how much, how you spell your name again? Jesse Jackson. Yeah. Right? He did that. So, back over there. It says, I will purge out among you the rebels, and them that transgress against me. I will bring them forth out of the country where they sojourn, and they shall not enter into the land of Israel. So all these little Uncle Toms, these little, ooh, I can't see myself outside of America living without massa, right? In that day, it says, I will purge out among you the rebels, and them that transgress against me, I will bring them forth out of the country where they sojourn, and they shall not enter into the land of Israel. So you might be one of the lucky ones that get gathered up out of this whole thing, right? And get taken into the wilderness while all hell is breaking loose, but you will not enter into the land of the Lord, right? So you might be saved from this God-forsaken place, but you will die in that wilderness, right? If you got a problem with the Most High God and how he's running things. If you think America was doing it better. If you think Donald J. Trump, you know, if he was the best, right? Then you might not make it too far, right? It says, I will purge out from you the rebels. Again, just like how he did the first time in the Exodus, when we went to in the wilderness, when Moses asked that question, which among you is with the Lord, right? And all of those that moved and switched sides and said, you know what? You know how they do, like, you know, you have people lined up, then, you know, you have, you know, all the people move one way, and then, you know, they leave that one person standing by themselves, like that. So when Moses said, hey, which one of y'all is on the side of the Lord? Our Haitian brothers, our Levites, they moved first. And the last one, the ones that didn't, you know, kind of hesitated on if they want to follow the Lord or keeps in the ways of Egypt. Yeah, what the Bible say, the ground swallowed them up, right? They didn't make it, right? So don't be that guy. Because, like I said, it's crazy. You don't want to be that person. Let's get Matthew 13. So, it's Matthew 13 and 40. Let's start at 39. So, let's read this again, though. It says, I will purge out among you the rebels, and them that transgress against me. I will bring them forth out of the north country where they sojourn, and they shall not enter into the land of Israel. Right? Let's start at Matthew 13. Let's start at So it said, hold on. I'm live real quick. Hold on. It says boom, boom, boom. Let me see where we start at. So Jesus sent a multiple. No, just start at 37. So it says, and he answered and said unto them, he that soweth good seed is the Son of Man, right? So the good seed is the Son of Man. That's the Israelites. It says the field is the world, right? Because if you're familiar, this is the parable of the sower, right? If you're familiar with this with this chapter. And it says, the field is the world, and the good seed are the children of the kingdom. Right? So again, the good, like we said earlier, the good seed are the children of the kingdom, the Israelites, the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, bloodline, patrilineal descendants, right? So, but then it says this, but the tares are the children of the wicked one. So we have people amongst our people that look like our people, but they're not our people, right? You have people that might be dark like me, appear to look like a Judite, but they're not a Judite, right? For example, Bob Marley, you know, to the world, Bob Marley is a Jamaican black man, but according to the Bible, Bob Marley is a Edomite because his dad is Irish. It's all about who your father is, patrilineally. And if you look at a picture of Bob Marley and his dad face side by side, you'll see they look exactly alike, except for Bob Marley have his mother complexion, right? So you have people like Tia and Tamara, who people will say, yeah, those are black women, but they're from the seed of Edom because their father is a so-called Caucasian. So it's not anything about phenotypes and how you look. So that just, destroy the whole black supremacist thing or, black Hebrew Israelites. No, it's crazy, right? It's not about the color. We don't suffer from colorism. Now, the people who we say are Israelites, do they typically have a predominantly look? Yeah, maybe, yeah. But we're all scattered throughout the four corners, right? Speaking different languages called by different things. We say the black, Hispanic, and Native American people are God's people. That's what we say on this side of the earth. Now, the other side of the planet could be called other things, right? And we come in many different shades. So to think that, for them to say black, I know I'm rambling, but for them to say black Hebrew Israelites, that's a misnomer because, like I said, you can actually look. I mean, I just told you about 2-3 different people who people would colloquially say is black, but in the biblical paradigm, they would be from the nation of Edom. Because the Bible doesn't deal with color. People put color, what I mean by it doesn't deal with color, like how we say, oh, black, white, and stuff like that. They don't, it's nations and tribes, right? So, it's just colloquially how we speak now, they say white, they say black. So, because people talk like that, we teach like that, because that's the way people understand. If I go around calling everybody Edomites, maybe a few people might know what I'm talking about, but collectively people won't know, right? Unless they, study to, understand Bible terminology. But yeah, it says, the field is the world, the good seed are the children of the kingdom, but the tares are the children of the wicked one. So, meaning, again, you have people that look like us, but they're not quite us, right? And those are the tares, right? And so, again, like I said, and it's messed up, but that's just the truth of the thing, right? And I'm not gonna lie to now that to the beginners and stuff like that, that might be a hard pill to swallow because we tend to gravitate to stuff that look familiar to us. So you see another dark skinned person, black skinned person, you just automatically well, we're the same. But not understanding that's not how it the rest of the world does it. It's only here in America where they practice racism, where they group everybody like that. But the rest of the world look at tribes. What tribe you from? What people group you descend from. It has nothing to do with complexion. I mean, because there's 54 nations in Africa, and none of them people over there get along. right? Because they all different tribes and nations and different languages and stuff, right? So we gotta get off that, understanding and understand that shoot, the whole world at one point in time was dark skinned. So it's not a color thing, it's a tribal thing. Right? It says, boom, 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 says, and as for you, house of Israel, thus saith the Lord God, go ye serve ye every one his idol, and thereafter also, if ye will not hearken unto me, but pollute ye my holy name no more. Right? So God is going to make sure his people do not, pollute his name no more and sacrifice to idols, because he's going to purge out those rebels and get rid of those people that don't want to be down with the program, right? Because right here, real quick, in case y'all don't know how Jesus get down, he don't play around. He says this. Where it at? 18. 21. I don't find it like that. Niggas, hold up, niggas, find it like this. Hold on. Right here. 27. So right here, Luke 19 and 27. And it says, but those my enemies would not that I should reign over them, bring hither and slay them before me. Right? So that's how Christ is getting down. Christ said, hey, you don't want me to be your king? So bring them here then. So, lay them down right where they stand. But those my enemies, which not that I should reign over them, bring hither and slay them before me. That's what Christ is saying in that day. Right? And there's going to be a lot of our people that's going to want to come back to America. But, of course they can't because it's destroyed. But they're going to have that mentality. They're going to be so Americanized in that day. That's why the rebels will be purged out in the wilderness. And Christ is telling you, but those my enemies, which not that I should reign over them, bring hither and slay them before me. Right? That's what's going down. Right? So either get down or lay down. Over here, it says, I'm back over here. Back down, jump down to 15. Jeremiah 30 and 15. Why criest thou for thy affliction? Thy sorrow is incurable for the multitude of thy iniquity, because thy sins were increased. I have done these things unto thee. Therefore all they that devour thee shall be devoured, and all thy adversary, every one of them, shall go into captivity. Right? So God ain't playing with these people. He says every one of them shall go into captivity. He says, and these people meaning the ones that had a hand in the destruction of the Lord's people. Because it says right here, it says, therefore all they that devour thee, the thee is the Israelites, all these nations that came against the Israelites and subjugated them or oppressed them and did cause harm to them. It says, that devour thee shall be devoured. And all thy adversaries, every one of them, shall go into captivity. And they that spoil thee shall be spoiled, and they and all that prey upon thee I will give for a prey. Right? Because that's how the Most High God is moving. Because it tells us this over here. It says, because what he say? He says, and all their adversaries shall go into captivity, every one of them. Right? Because he tells us this in Isaiah 14. For the Lord will have mercy on Jacob, and yet will choose Israel, and set them in their own land. And the strangers shall be joined with them, and they should cleave to the house of Jacob. So they're going to cleave to us. They're going to be, dependent on us. And the people should take them, and we're going to take them, and we're going to bring them to their place, and the house of Israel should possess them in the land of the Lord for servants and for handmaids. So we're going to take them captive. It says, and they should take them captive, who captives they were. What did it say over here? It says, every one of them shall go into captivity, and they shall, and they that spoil these shall be spoiled. So back over here. And they shall take them in captives, who captives they were, and they shall rule over their oppressors. Like it told us over here. Every one of them shall go into captivity, and they shall be spoiled. And they that spoil thee shall be spoiled. And all that prey upon thee I will give for a prey. Meaning they're going to be the most unprotected people on the planet. Just like we are the most unprotected people on the planet. Meaning anything can happen to us. Nobody cares. They're not going to do anything. Like, sprinkle some cocaine on him. He's alright. Write it up as a gang violence. Right? That's how they do it. Just sprinkle some cocaine on them. Find a dead body. What did David Chappelle say? Sprinkle cocaine on them. Case closed. Right? No, they don't do anything. Right? It says, and the people shall take them and bring them to their place, and the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of the Lord for servants and for handmaids, and they shall take them captives, who captives they were, and they shall rule over their oppressors. Right? That's what's going on in the world. Let's get this. Isaiah 60. Isaiah 60 and 10. And it tells us like this. And the sons of the strangers shall build up thy walls. So after we take these people captive, they're going to have to build up our land. Just like how we have to build up this great nation of theirs. They're going to have to build up our land. Right? They're going to have to make our land great again. And it says, and the sons of the strangers shall build up thy walls, and their kings shall minister unto thee. So their presidents, their prime ministers, their noblemen, their people of power, they're going to be in a position of servitude. They're not going to have no prestige, no prestigeness going on that day. They're going to be serving. They're going to be, yes, a master, no, sir, master that day. Right? Yes, a boss, no, sir, boss. We sick boss. That's what they're going to be that day. Right? Donald Trump is going to be, yes, a boss. What do you need? What do you need? Anything, boss? Anything. Right? They're going to be like that. Because it says, the sons of the strangers shall build up thy walls, and their kings shall minister unto thee. For in my wrath I smote thee, but in my favor I have mercy on thee. So God punished us in the past because of our wickedness and our, following of the other nations and not keeping to our own customs. But he's going to lift that punishment, restore his people, sending his son back by the name of the Mashiach Yahawashi, who the world calls Christ. And he's going to have favor and mercy on thee. Therefore thy gates shall be open continually. They shall not be shut day nor night. So we're going to have a open border, right? And it says this. That the man may bring their forces of the Gentiles and their kings may be brought. So, yes, we're going to have open borders because they're going to be coming daily, hourly, giving us everything they got, all their money, everything they make. If they find a penny on the ground on their way coming, they're going to put it in their pocket and say, I'm going to give it to master, right? Here you go, sir. Mr. Black Man, sir, here you go. Please take this, right? Because it tells us, therefore the gate shall be open continually. They shall not be shut day nor night, that the man may bring unto thee the forces of the Gentiles. Talking about their riches, their money. Because we're going to be charging these people taxes. They're going to be paying tribute, right? And they're going to have to give up all their little what they call it? Their little GOP stuff, right? Their little global production stuff. Give it all to us. All that stuff you make, give it to us, right? And it says, for that nation and kingdom that would not serve thee, right? Because you might have some prideful people, i.e. Edom, that don't want to get down with the program, right? Because like we just read in, what it say? Just read it one more time for the people in the back. It says, but those my enemies, which not that I should reign over them, bring hither and slay them, right? So, for that nation and kingdom that will not serve thee shall perish. Yeah, those nations shall be utterly wasted. So if they don't want to get down with the program, they don't want to give the first Israelite they see all that money they got. It says, for that nation and kingdom that will not serve thee shall perish. Those nations shall be utterly wasted. Right? So if they don't want to get with the new structure program, they will be eviscerated and not to be visitated on this planet, right? Thus said the Lord. Not me, I didn't write this book. And it says, for that nation and kingdom that will not serve thee, yeah, those nations should be utterly wasted. That's what's going down. But those my enemies would not that I should reign over them, bring hither and slay them before me, right? So that's how Christ is getting down in that day, right? It's not playing with these people. Because it's called judgment, in case you don't know. And judgment don't look like what you thought it looked like. Back over here. Verse 17. For I will restore... Hold on, let's get this verse. Before we... Let's get this verse. And I say, all right, let me read that after. It says, therefore the Lord, therefore all they that devour thee shall be devoured, and all thy adversaries, every one of them shall go into captivity, and they that spoil thee shall be spoiled, and they and all that prey upon thee I will give for a prey. For I will restore the health unto thee, and I will heal thee from thy wounds, said the Lord, because they call thee a outcast, saying, this is Zion, whom no man seeketh after. Right? Because that's how they treat us, like we're just outcast people, nobody care about us, so why, we're just punching bags to this society. Right? Let's start at 14. It says, therefore, behold, the day cometh, said the Lord, that it shall no more be said, the Lord that liveth, that brought up the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt. We're familiar with leaving out of Egypt. We talked about it earlier. Then it says, but the Lord that liveth, that brought the children of Israel from the land of the north, and from the lands rather he had driven them, and I will bring them again into their land that I gave unto their fathers. So this is what we call the second Exodus, where he's going to bring us out of the land of the north. We're going to talk about this great Exodus out of America. It's going to be the greatest, most famous story throughout the whole universe. Just like when Moses left out of Egypt, we still talk about that today. You know, they still got the archaeologists digging around the Red Sea in Egypt and finding stuff and looking for stuff to this day. To this day, right? So, in that day, we're going to be telling our grandchildren and our children on how the Lord took us out of this evil land of America and save his people from nuclear fire, right? From those nuclear wars and everything that's about to take place, right? We're going to tell that story for many generations, right? Just like how we read this book and we read about what our people did for many generations, right? Because it told us. Therefore, behold, the days come, said the Lord, that it shall be no more said, the Lord that liveth, that brought up the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt. So we ain't going to be talking about that no more. But the Lord that liveth, that brought the children of Israel from the land of the north, which we know is to be America, and from the lands whither he had driven them, and I will bring them again into their land that I gave unto their fathers. Right? That's the bottom line. That's what's happening. Right? Back over here. Let's get Micah 2 and 13 real quick. And that's what's happening. He's gonna break us out of this land, you know, bring us back into the land of our fathers, right? And how he's gonna do it? It says this, Micah 2 and 13. That breaker is come before them. They have broken up and have passed through the gates. So this is the Mashiach Yahushua coming with the millions and millions of angels with him. Who these people want to call it UAPs. But that's a whole nother story. But coming with the millions and millions, right? The breaker is come before them. They have broken up. They have passed through the gates. So we're going to be leaving out of this land, like rushing out of this place in that day, right? Figuratively speaking, of course. And it says, they have passed through the gate and are gone out, and their king passed before them, meaning the Mashiach Yahushua, who the world calls Christ, he's going to be leading the charge. He's going to be leading his people up out of this place, just like Moses led the people up out of this place. The breaker has come before them. He have broken up and have passed through the gate and are gone out by it, and their king shall pass before them, and the Lord on the head of them. Right? That's what's happening in that day. The Lord is going to be in our mind and our foreless of our eyes, and we follow behind our king, the Mashiach Yahushua, who the world calls Christ, right? And breaking us out of this hellhole called America and all the other places that we're scattered to throughout the four corners of this earth, right? Moving on. It says, thus saith the Lord, behold, I will bring again the captivity of Jacob, of Jacob's tents, and have mercy on his dwelling places. And the city shall be built up for her own heap, and the palace shall remain after the manner thereof. So he's going to restore his people. We're not going to ever, fall back down again to be subjugated and oppressed, right? And to cut, and out of them, and out of them shall proceed thanksgiving and a voice of them that make merry, because we're going to be in a joyous, time that, joyous emotions that day, right? Knowing that we got saved from, number one, nuclear fire, because you done got the, the alarm on your phone or your TV saying, hey, bam, 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 intimate danger in your area, seek shelter, right? So you panicking, like, dang, I don't know what to do. It's a nuclear bomb coming my way. What am I going to do, right? Then here come this black man with the millions of angels with him to come take you up out of that. So you're going to have, it says, shall proceed thanksgiving and and the voice of them will make merry. Because you're going to be happy knowing you're getting taken out of this hellhole, right? Salvation came to the Israelites. It says, and I will multiply them, and they shall not be few. I will also glorify them, and they shall not be small, right? You know, we're going to be a strong, powerful nation, right? Read about that in Daniel 7. Strong, powerful nation. I mean, in the book of Daniel. Strong. And their nobles shall be of themselves, and their governors shall proceed from the midst of them, and I will cause him to draw near, and he shall approach me. For who is this that engaged in his heart to approach me, said the Lord. So it's talking about the Mashiach Yahushua, the King of Israel, right? He's going to be the main. He's going to be the main, right? Deuteronomy 18:18, real quick. And it tells us like this. I will raise them up a prophet from among their brethren, like unto thee. I will put my words in his mouth, and he shall speak unto them all that I command him. This is the Mashiach, the Yahushua, right? And we're going to follow this man because he's the King of Israel, right? And it says, and they shall be my people, and I will be your God. Behold, a whirlwind of the Lord go forth with fury and continue whirlwind. It shall fall with pain upon the head of the wicked, because he's coming to judge this place for all the atrocities and the wickedness that these people have done. And it says, the fierce anger of the Lord shall not return until he have done it, and until he have performed the intent of his heart. So everything that we are reading is going to happen, and it's going to happen because God said it's going to fulfill every intent of his heart. He said these things out of his mouth, and damn it, they're going to happen because the Most High God said it. And if it don't happen the way we read it, then he is a liar. And we know God is not a liar. The Most High God, Yahweh, is not a man that he should lie. So you better believe, like that Jeezy song, you better believe it, you better believe it, that this is going to happen. Right? It says, and have performed the intents of his heart in the latter days, ye shall consider it. So that's what we're doing. We're considering these things in the latter days. Like, wow, God did say this was going to happen. Wow, God did say this is going to start to this and that going to line up. These prophets were right on point when they told us these things. We're going to start thinking about that stuff, right? Because it says, in the latter days, ye shall consider it, right? Right here, Isaiah 14:24. The Lord of hosts has sworn, saying, surely I had brought, surely as I thought, so it shall come to pass. So whatever the Most High God think, it happens. He does it. He's not, somebody that just say things just to say it. It happens. God just don't run his mouth. If he say certain things is going to happen, you better believe. And it says, the Lord of hosts has sworn, saying, surely I have thought, so it should come to pass. And as I propose, it shall stand. So again, it's going to happen, and because the Most High God said this stuff is going to happen, because his promise is